All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. We'll get started officially within a minute or so. These slides that you see here are some promotional slides and some fundraising opportunities for Special Mix Maryland. There's the barcodes, there's contact information, there's web pages and addresses there to share with others. Again, always looking for ways to continue the fundraising efforts to provide for the athletes year round for what we offer here at Special Mix Maryland. There is also on some of these, if not all of these, a fundraising sharing with the area programs around the state. So you can see with our upcoming plunge next or this coming January, car donation program, the Baltimore Run, which is the weekend of the Fall Sports Fest, and some other opportunities as well. So we would look for you to help promote this, send it out to any of your other fellow coaches, family members, athletes, unified teammates, etc., all the way down the road there, just to again get the word out for different opportunities to access funds to again provide for the athletes and year-round programs that we offer. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started here with the meat and potatoes of the session this evening. Once again, this is the flag football pre-competition webinar for the 2005 Fall Sports Festival, that is, held at Mount St. Mary's up in Emmitsburg. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan to do a quick introduction, and then I will hit on some general slides, and then we'll pass it back to Jordan and Alec to talk about some rules and other information specific for flag football.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Steve, while I'm speaking for the next minute or so, if anyone pops in the waiting room, if you could just admit them. Appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening. I know it's dinner time, so if you're eating, totally understandable. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start. So as you guys know, this is gonna be the pre-competition coaches webinar. I am the sports director for flag football. As you all know, you've gotten a million emails from me. I've seen you at qualifiers. Alec Travers is still our competition director, and he will also be joining us to talk about a few slides. And then there's Steve and Mike, which you guys all know, who are my bosses. So if you have anything good to say about me, definitely let them know. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with some with the agenda and then some general Fall Sports Fest information to get us going. So today on the agenda, we're obviously going to do welcome and introductions, which you kind of just did. We're going to talk about the entries for the games. We're going to talk about the overall schedule for Fall Sports Fest, and include what the plan is for flag football. We're going to talk about the rain plan. I know that's important, and you guys all have rain on the brain for this weekend's qualifier. And then we're going to talk about the flag football venue information at the Mount, some rule reminders, which Alec is going to go over for us. And then we're going to talk about divisioning, which I think Steve is handling. And then, just some conduct reminders, sportsmanship, coaches' conduct, things like that. And then at the very end, we'll leave it open for a Q&A in case you guys have any questions, concerns that you want to let us know about. So we'll go to the next slide here. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. Hopefully, if you just joined, which I think everyone was on right when we got started, but as a reminder, if you could keep yourself muted throughout the presentation, if you have a question, if you could use the chat function. And while I'm speaking, Jordan will be monitoring that. While she or Alec are speaking, I'll be monitoring that. And then at the end, again, we'll have some question and answers if anything hasn't been addressed. But as you know, with all of our webinars for the coaches, pre-competition and preseason webinars, as you saw, this is being recorded. So these slides that you see this evening, as well as the link to the recording, will be posted on our coaches resource page in the flag football section for your references. Other coaches, sport volunteers, athletes, unified teammates, anybody has access to that. So I just want to go over some general information regarding the Fall Sports Festival. So we'll talk about lunches and food services to begin with. So at the venue where the flag football competition will be held, basically, if you've been there before, it's the big tent area. That's where we'll be delivering the lunches for the teams as well as the individual skills athletes that are competing. The guesstimate time of when those will be delivered is around 11 to 12:30 that day. So at 10:50, don't be coming up to Jordan saying, "Hey, where's our lunches?" Um, the coach will be notified, or there'll be announcements, or it'll be obvious when the lunches are being delivered. And just wait till they have them organized for you guys. And then, as a coach with one or two helpers, you would come and pick up the entire lunch for your team, or the skills coach can pick up those for those skills athletes. We will not be handing out one lunch at a time or anything like that. So just want to make sure that everyone's prepared for that. Again, if you have any questions or anything like that regarding the meals once they're delivered, if there's an order issue, you can let Jordan or Alec know, whoever's closest to you. We will try to resolve that if there are any issues. But those orders have been submitted and are being prepared right before the day of the Fall Sports Fest based on the submissions that each of you made for your teams. Families and spectators, there are no concessions planned for this year, so just want to make you aware of that. In the past, we've had one or two little concession stands and or food carts or whatever available. That will not be the case this year. So family members and spectators, anyone who's not officially part of your teams, are on their own for lunch. They can bring their own. They can visit some of the local establishments in the area, that type of thing. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of that and communicates that out so that there's no frustrations with people arriving and handling their expectations.
Hey,
For
Steve.
medicals, yep.
Sorry, just real quick. I'm just curious. Is it that we don't have anybody who's interested in doing it, or is there like a prohibition of having concessions there?
No, we had the same people interested last year, but from a proximity and an access point, and their new pull behind trailer, it wasn't accessible to, and it wasn't viable in the location where they would have to be. One of
Oh,
the issues we have this year is the mount is in full operation mode during that weekend. They have a doubleheader baseball game. They have a doubleheader soccer game. They have a rugby game, which is on the other side of campus, but
gotcha.
they also have their alumni association welcome back and recruitment. So it's full-blown activities, and there's not just space available for it this year.
So it's perfect timing. Gotcha. All right, thanks.
Exactly, exactly. So, with that being said, we talk about parking, but I would suggest to get there early enough so that you have good parking with all the other activities, like I said, baseball and soccer and everything happening um, down in that general area with flag football. So, but thanks for the question. Medical services, we always do have our medical personnel available during all of our competitions. They will be floating around the football field or flag football fields, typically hanging out in the tent area, but anyone with a radio can notify them. So you can look for Jordan, you can look for Alec. Medical personnel will be having their medical bags, but most likely be hanging out in the tent or in that general area during the competitions. So just want you to be aware of that. We also do, as always, as a reminder, as coaches, please bring the hard copies of your medical forms with you. We had one or two incidents in the past where that was not the case, and it had potential significant impacts of some serious implications. So, as always, as coaches, bring those incident report forms, have one or two with you, and also make sure you have all of the medical forms for your athletes.
Yeah, printed as well, please. And I would like to thank all of the coaches for flag football that have done this, um, especially at the last qualifier as well. So great job on that, and thank you, and please continue to do it.
So here's a general layout of the operations and venues, etc., for Fall Sports Festival. So you'll see nothing has really changed from the past, other than one thing that's important for you as coaches is I think the past 2 years, if you've been up there, we've had the registration in the lower level of the Knott Arena, right outside the doors where you walk into the um, arena for the opening ceremony. The check-in this year will be upstairs where it has been previously in the control center. So the same building, but it'll be upstairs in our control center, right by the front entrance, if you will, by the tennis court. So just want to make sure as coaches, you know, that's where you will go to pick up your coaches' packets and report any scratches when you do arrive the morning of. So we do have, go ahead, Mike.
Were you going to touch on the red box there? Apparently not. So it's okay.
I
Just
don't
as
see
a
the red
reminder,
box.
as you can see on the chart there, right below where it says flag football teams, or did you
Oh,
already
yeah,
touch
yeah.
on that?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that.
Okay, great. Never mind.
Yeah. So you see the not arena is where the opening ceremony is. Again, the upper level of that arena is where you'll check in at the control center. That's our delegation registration, and that's our main control center for the main operations of the venue. You'll see the tennis. You'll see parking down in the lower left-hand corner. Again, recommendation to get there in plenty of time to find parking. Again, knowing all the activities that will be occurring on campus. You'll see the tennis competition and skills are also right across the room from the opening ceremony. Distance running is by the fields there, and it does a loop around. It's not, but if you it goes way down to the right of this, around some of the buildings, up and around the this side of campus. As Mike was indicating, that red box there, anywhere along that sidewalk by the where it says the pavilion and awards, that's where the flag football and distance running awards will take place, same place it has been in the past. But anywhere down College Lane near the sidewalk, we have no spectators whatsoever. You'll see this, and Jordan will show you a slide later on that says where the spectators should be going. But this is the course where the long distance running competitors will be running all the way down that side. We will have some signs up there, but very important for you to communicate to your family members and other spectators. Do not have anyone park their butts, if you will, up near the sidewalk looking down the hill. And Mike, if you want to give anything additional there.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's the not so much, not just the sidewalk,
Yeah.
any of that flat space is part of the running course. The edge of the hill, if they're on the downhill slide, we're not running anybody there, but any of the flat grass area is part of the running course, even if someone is not running by there at the moment.
Yep.
No one can be sitting there. Again, we'll have signage and all, but there are 4 sports going on, and we all need to work together. So please do inform your folks in advance that they can't be sitting there. When running is done, which will be around by 1 o'clock, if not earlier, doesn't matter. They can sit wherever they want then, at least as far as that hill goes. But it was a real issue last year,
Yeah.
real challenge, and it affected some of our runners. So please, let's be respectful of all the sports. Thanks.
Yeah. Again, we're relying on you as coaches to communicate that to families and others that you know that are coming to the event. No one's doing it intentionally to cause an issue, but as Mike indicated, we have had to yell and scream and be very forceful, and it's frustrating for us, and obviously frustrating for those individuals who we have to address in that manner because they're not abiding by the signs or the nice conversations we have before we have to start yelling down the road.
Yeah, I mean, let's be candid though. There were some who would not move. So that's why we're enlisting you, even when additional signage and stuff. There were some who were belligerent.
Yeah.
And that's when voices got raised because they were obstructing runners.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully we nailed that enough for you guys. Again, we really look for you guys in many facets with your communication and your leadership as a head coach to make sure that communication gets out. Okay. So registration, we talked about that. There will be a packet in that control center in the upper level of the Not Arena for each of the head coaches. And then I believe there'll be a separate package for some of those programs who are also participating in the skills competition portion of flag football. But again, those will be picked up by the head coach. And again, if you know of any scratches at that time, please report them there. We know sometimes you as a coach get there before everybody else is, and you may not have that information. So as soon as a scratch or a no-show, if you will, is that you become aware of. If you've already left the control center, you can report that to Jordan or Alec once you get to your first game or prior to your first game, as long as they're there around that food tent, if you will. So here's the overall basic schedule that we're looking at for Fall Sports Fest. Again, the registration will be open around 7:30 to 8:30. Again, we talked about the location for that, so that's when you as coaches will need to go pick up your packets and get ready and get your teams down if you have them there for the opening ceremony. Hopefully, most of you will have everyone there for the opening ceremony to enjoy that portion of the festivities and the event. If you have anyone who was nominated from your area program to carry in the banners, if you don't know, you can check with your area directors or area leadership. And those individuals need to be in the field house, which is right across the hallway from where we do the opening ceremony inside the Knott Arena between 8:15, but no later than 8:30. They need to be there in place so that we have everything ready to go for that parade, and the announcers and everybody are fully aware of what's going on. If you have anyone else who was nominated, we're making those decisions related to the athlete oath, the Pledge of Allegiance, coach's oath, and the torch later this week, early next week, and we will notify the area directors of those selections as well. If you have if you have someone selected for that from your teams, again, that report time is the same as the banner carriers, 8:15, 8:30, no later than 8:30. We will then go start the opening ceremony right at 9 o'clock, should end around 9:45. Then we'll do the dismissal there by sport. So stay in your seats after the opening ceremony is concluded. I or someone else will be on the microphone dismissing everyone in a timely manner for making your ways out to the competition venues. Then you'll have your coaches meetings first thing once you get to the venue with Jordan and Alec. Competition is estimated to be from 10 to 5, depending on the final schedules and that type of stuff. So just be prepared for that's basically about the block of time we're looking at for the competitions. And as we talked about, lunch is 11:30 to 1, depending on your schedule. That's when you would look to consume your lunches. We talked about the awards area there in the pavilion right up from the fields. And that will be done once all of skills has been completed, and also once a division has been concluded for the team component of the event for flag football. What we also ask you to do is make sure we should have some extra lists of the rosters for each of the teams. Make sure you have one of those. What we like to do is line the athletes up and the unified teammates up in order based on your roster that was submitted. So it makes for a better presentation, and the announcers and the presenters will be giving and awarding their appropriate award with the accurate names, and not just listing all the names and then going down the road. We want to make it a more ceremonial component there. We may ask you as coaches also to be right near the announcer if you have some individuals on your team who may have names that are more difficult to pronounce than others. That's very helpful. We want to do as best as we can to announce the names appropriately and respectfully. The code of conduct, hopefully everyone's aware of this. This isn't the full version, as you can find that on our coaches resource page, but a few things just to keep in the back of your mind, and again, continue to communicate to your athletes and teammates and other members of your delegation. Basically, it's respect for all. If you keep that in mind and at the forefront, that should cover most everything. We always want to make a great experience for everyone involved. No yelling at the officials, no yelling at other coaches, no yelling at other teammates or other teams. The officials, again, we know from NFL to Pee Wee leagues, refs calls, not everyone's going to agree with every call. It is what it is, and that's part of the sport. So if you see a rule infraction or something of that nature, you could bring that to Alec or Jordan's attention, and they'll talk that with you. But don't be yelling at the officials. That's not the appropriate action to take place there. No cussing, cursing, anything like that. We won't tolerate that. So just again, I know sometimes in competition, regardless of the sport, it can get heated, but that can't happen. All right, guys. I just want to be, again, respectful for all. And then no alcohol, vapors, tobacco, drug use, anything going on at the event. Just want to be respectful of that. If you see anyone from your delegation, spectators or whatever, just they can't be near any of the venues. If they need to have a smoke or a vape, You can direct them to the parking lot or something way far away from any of our venues. It can't be anywhere near any of the competition venues. The health and safety for everybody is obviously our primary concern and point of emphasis. So, again, these are just the key points. If we need to refer to the code of conduct, again, that's on the coaches resource page, not just for coaches, but athletes, teammates, family members, volunteers, all the way down the road. So divisioning, we've had some concerns and questions, I guess is a more accurate way to say it, over the past couple years. I think everyone should be familiar with how divisioning works, but this is just a basic reminder, if you will. So for skills and things of that nature, individual sports, if you will, we look at grouping athletes of comparable age, gender, and ability ranges. There's usually about a 15% differential, if you will, on their times or scores that is used as a guideline. It is absolutely not a rule. It is a guideline, and that's how we put the competitors in groups or divisions to compete, and then get the awards based on their achievements for the day. Now, with teams, obviously that's a little different. We use your all's assessment scores. We use our observations from qualifiers. We use officials and other people who have observed. We use your feedback from the qualifiers, where you've hopefully been submitting your feedback to Jordan throughout those qualifiers and events. And we use all of that to go into doing the teams. With teams, it's not an exact science, nor with anything with Special Olympics divisioning. It's the best we can do with the information we have. We know that it's not an exact science. We know that sometimes there are some discrepancies, but it doesn't just happen at Special Olympics Maryland. It's Special Olympics around the globe, USA Games, World Games, things of that nature. The thing we really do take into consideration is safety. Again, that's a part that goes into it with the team sports as well. But typically, with the individual sports and things of that nature, even with team sports, we try to have at least three competitors or teams in a division, no more than 8. That's an absolute. We can't have any more than 8. At times, there are situations where we have less than 3. Again, that just is based on the skill levels and other factors we talked about earlier. So, with that said, divisioning is designed to give every athlete an opportunity to excel and do their best. That does not mean and should not be construed as everyone has a chance to get a medal or everyone should get a medal. This is sport. Again, we have 8 places. Medals are first, second, third. So that's just part of the divisioning process. So again, as a coach, it's your job to really look at what is our goal for the year. Our goal is to improve. Our goal is to have fun. Our goal is to compete. Our goal is to have sportsmanship. And regardless where the chips may play, if we are in 8th place, we have the same respect as we would have if we got first place. So good winners and good people who aren't winners or don't finish first. Again, just show that sportsmanship and respect for all. So again, just encourage everyone, regardless of our place or finish, let's be happy with our accomplishments. And as long as we, as the athlete oath said, did our best, basically, we should be proud of ourselves. That's all any coach could ever ask of athletes, is to do your best, and I'll be happy with the result, regardless of what that is. This just goes into the team sports that I already kind of hit on the previous slide. So again, if you have any questions, just let us know. I know Jordan has set up the final divisions. I think will be happening Monday or Sunday or Monday, and then we'll start working on the schedules after that with working with some people selected to join that division committee, Alec, and a few others as well. The results will be posted down by the officials tent or the lunch tent. There's really only one tent down there, unless we have some rain coming in. We may bring some pop-up tents for the score tables. So that's where the brackets will be posted, so you can check on that and see how your divisions are going throughout the day. We have our coaches resource page. Hopefully everyone's familiar with that. The links here on this slide. Jordan will be working to keep that updated as much as possible leading into the competition. And again, that's where this webinar will be posted. That's where the results will be posted after the Fall Fest is concluded, probably no later than Tuesday, as we have our cycling event the following day down the road. We talked about where the awards will be taking place in that pavilion right up from the football fields and pretty much adjacent from where the individual skills will be. So again, once the games in the division have all been finalized, we'll let you know, hey, go ahead and start heading up to the pavilion, this division, to start getting your receiving your awards. Protests, if there are any protests, you can file those at that tent as well. Look for Jordan or Alec. They will have protest forms for you there. Only the head coach can fill that out and complete that and submit that filing a protest. Remember that those protests are not judgment calls on the officials. That's a misapplication of a rule that affects the outcome of a game. So again, it's not judgment calls, it's a misapplication of a stated rule. If you do end up filing a protest, the Sports Rules Committee will decide on that at the Fall Sports Fest that day. If it is denied, the head of delegation, or in this situation, as we don't really have heads of delegation most of the time for Fall Sports Fest, you are allowed to appeal that decision to the Games Rules Committee. Most times that takes about 24 hours. In this situation, knowing that most of us are heading down to cycling for the next day, about 3 hours down the road, it may take till Tuesday to make a decision on any appeals that may be filed for that reason, or for that situation. The evaluation survey, again, we will send this out, but please make note of that. This is an evaluation that we ask everyone to fill out who was in attendance at Fall Sports Fest, whether or not they were part of the official delegation. So we want to hear back from the athletes, the unified teammates, coaches, sport volunteers, family members, spectators, anybody and everybody who was at the event. The more feedback we have, the better we can plan and make adjustments for improvement leading into the following years. We really truly look at everything and read every comment made. So please help us to get as much feedback as possible. The one thing we do ask is if you say something that you didn't like, please give us a suggestion on how you would see it, how you would make it better. Just don't say, I don't like this. You may have an idea that we haven't thought about. So please share with those ideas as well. Just don't say you need to change this. Give us a reason or a suggestion on what we should change about that. Weather conditions, as Jordan alluded to, fortunately we had to cancel a qualifier a week or two ago. The weather was looking terrible and it ended up not coming, and that was an unfortunate situation. We also are continuing to look at the weather for this weekend. Again, not looking great, but Jordan will touch on that as well. But know that we do play in the rain, so be prepared for that. Be prepared for all weather conditions. It's starting to get more cool these days, so be ready for the coolness. We've had snow, we've had wind, we've had rain, we've had hot. We've had everything possible during this event, so please come prepared for all weather conditions. If we do have inclement weather coming in on the day of, you'll be notified there from Jordan, Alec, and others regarding any possible postponements or delays. If we do have lightning, thunder coming in, we'll also coordinate that with the Mount, but be prepared to go to either the Knott Arena, potentially vehicles, things of that nature, to get out and find shelter, and then we'll make announcements once it's safe to return for play. So again, just really be prepared and tell everybody, come prepared for all weather. Bring rain gear, bring blankets, bring whatever you can to make sure if something comes up, you and your teammates are prepared.
And it's usually windy, so keep that in mind. If you were planning on bringing any kind of umbrellas or tents or whatnot, it is usually windy, so bring some kind of windbreaker or something like that.
Yeah. So I will stop talking now and turn it back over to Jordan and Alec. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Steve, for sharing all of that really important kind of generalized information about the flag football competition and Fall Sports Fest as a whole. We're going to get into some more specifics, and if you guys have any questions while I'm talking or Alex talking, just put them in the chat or raise your hand. Steve will help monitor that while we take over these slides. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask any questions if you are confused or concerned about something. So let me just get right into it. So this year, it's awesome that we have a bunch more teams than last year participating. Last year, we had 16 teams overall. This year, we have 16 traditional teams, 7 unified teams, and 6 high-level individual skills competitors. So really excited to make the brackets this year. Really excited to see how everything shakes up. It's just awesome to hear that, my first year, we have such a surge in competitors for flag football. And then, like Steve mentioned, the tentative flag football schedule overall, we're going to start the team competition around 10 a.m. And make sure you make it to the coaches meeting at 9:45. Just before that, the games should end between 4 and 5. That'll also depend on the schedule that I make, but us, as staff, and I'm sure you as parents and coaches don't want to be there for a million hours that day. So hopefully we'll be able to keep the games going as scheduled and we'll be able to wrap up around 5. And then individual skills for those individual skills coaches that are on the webinar. We're going to start skills at 10:30 over with Caprice, and the Mount Softball girls will be back to help assist her with that. So very excited to meet them and have them back. I heard they were wonderful volunteers last year. And just a note about awards, I know we've talked about it a couple of times, but they will happen after all the games in your division have been played. Obviously, all the games have to be played in order for us to determine the places for your division. So just keep an eye out on the schedule, just so you kind of know when your division is wrapping up and when you should get your team together to start heading over to the awards pavilion. They will happen after the skills athletes have been awarded their awards, and then also after LDR, because LDR will be in the morning. So this is just a general layout of the flag football venue. Nothing has changed since last year that I'm aware of. I kind of used Melissa's map and just tweaked it a little bit. But as you guys can see, the yellow box is where the individual skills competition area will be. We don't want spectators sitting at each station in skills. We want them to stand back and kind of station themselves back from skills. So there's no parents and, friends and stuff actually in between the stations, just to keep a nice flow for the athletes, especially if we have to division them and they'll have multiple stations going at one time. We really don't want any distractions or any interruptions for them. The team warm-up area is going to be in the orange square. That's a huge field space. Your teams are welcome to warm up on that throughout the entire day, as long as they don't encroach on field 4's space. So we're gonna have 1, 2, and 3 on, the upper field, kind of closest to the road, and then field 4 will be back there. The control center tent is the green square. It's gonna be stationed in the middle. You can't miss it. Like Steve said, it'll be the only big tent there. That's where you're gonna report any scratches that you weren't able to report upon check-in, where you're gonna be able to check for medical personnel if you don't see any roaming around the field, where you're gonna be picking up your lunches, all things like that. So that is kind of our home base. And for seating, I'm just gonna hammer this in again, but these red dots on the line are kind of anti-seating or no seating zones. So on each of the sides of the fields, we have fence lines. They're chain link fence that run across the entire length of the sideline. So obviously families can't sit there because the fence is in the way. There is a pretty steep hill on the other side of this fence next to field 1. Spectators can try to sit there, but they only would be able to if they were really on picnic blankets, because lawn chairs aren't going to work. So they're more than welcome to sit on the other side of the fence line here. There's plenty of space. And then for spectator seating for fields 2 and 3, obviously it's difficult if they're sitting over here to see fields 2 and 3. So spectator seating is going to be, like Steve mentioned, in front of where LDR is going to be running. So that entire sidewalk and flat grass we'll have plenty of signs, but we really need you to communicate with your families that it is a no sitting zone because, we athletes get very flustered if they're interrupted in their race. It really messes with their time. It's not fair to them, and we really want to keep all the competitions fair and make sure we don't interfere with any other sports that are happening. So please hammer that into your parents, or they will be moved, and we will have to get loud, and we don't want to. Okay, so if there's no questions about the layout, I'm gonna go to the next slide, and this also is on the coaches resources page at the top of the page under the Fall Sports Fest information. I do have a PDF of this there, so if you're wondering what field you're going to be on when you're assigned fields for gameplay, you can go there and see what the layout looks like.
Hey, Jordan, before you move
Yeah.
off that, quick question. So,
Yes.
I know that there will probably be some blocks of time where our athletes won't be playing, our families will be kind of probably, since it sounds like we're on hills here, nobody's going to want to hang out there. Where is a spot, if we were looking on this map, where families might want to set up a pop-up tent, like a canopy, or just kind of keep the team together and hang out someplace? Is like the rest of these open spaces, are they okay for us? Like to the left of the individual skills area, that athletic field, like where do you think?
Yes. So, all the blank space here and
Yeah,
down here across awards is going to be free. We obviously don't want to get too close to the awards pavilion because we will be staging there. There'll be a lot of traffic coming in and out. But
right.
we want to have this field right here and this field right here are good for you guys to kind of just set up and hang out. Like Alex said, it's really windy at the mount. So if you have any tents, make sure to bring tent weights. Those would be
Yep,
very important, obviously, because we don't want any flyaway tents and anyone getting injured.
Yeah,
totally makes sense. Okay,
yeah, the other
thanks.
thing I'll say, John, there is depending on the schedule, if you have a little bit of a gap in times or whatever,
Yep,
especially if the weather is not real conducive, if they want to go into the Knott Arena and
okay,
hang out and watch powerlifting, get out of the elements, that type of stuff, that's also a great place to hang out as long as they're quiet and respectful for the powerlifting competition.
that's great to know. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, the next one. So seating, we just talked about it a million times, but make sure the families are not on the sidelines. The only people that are allowed on the sidelines and on the field, as you guys know, are any volunteer that's working with staff, and then anyone that's on your roster. So if you have a volunteer or a parent or someone who is not on your roster that you turned into me, they are not allowed on the field anytime during competition. Um, so yeah, so if there's any questions about that, let me know. But we really just don't want to have people that aren't affiliated, I guess, with the competition, in the way or on the fields. And yeah, so I think that's kind of just a recap of what I just said. And then Alec is going to take over the next couple slides and we're going to go over some rule reminders for you. These are things that you guys already know. These are things that were covered in the preseason webinar. We just want to go over them a little bit with you to refresh your brains. So I'm going to mute myself and Alec, you can take over.
Thank you, Jordan. All right, so I know we changed some things up during the qualifiers time-wise, and thankfully we had a lot of teams there, so that was great. The plan for Fall Fest is the regular. It's going to be the two 20-minute halves, 5-minute halftime, 1 minute timeout. So you're going to have two per game. That's one of the new rules this year, two per game. You can use them whenever you want, but if you use them both in the first half, you don't have two more in the second half. So two per game, and then running clock except for the last minute. Um, excuse me. When we get to the tiebreaker, that's where we're going to get into our point differential. If you remember from past years, this was Melissa's thing, my least favorite thing to try and explain and figure out. So I'm going to leave it at that. We'll go down to a point differential, and if it does get to that, we can talk about it more. All right, overtime. So the team that starts with the first overtime will be second if there's a second overtime. Scoring, this is the exact same as it's been for the past, I think, 1 or 2 years. 1 point from the 6-yard line, 2 points from the 12-yard line, no changes there. Running the ball. Okay, so the quarterback is who we consider the first person that gains possession of the snap. They cannot advance the ball across the line of scrimmage at any point for any reason. So your quarterback cannot run the ball across the line of scrimmage. And ball carriers must make an effort to avoid defenders that have already made an established position. So please do not stiff arm people, do not plow through people. This is non-contact. We don't want anybody to get hurt. Your no run zones are the same, 5 yards in whatever direction you're traveling, 5 yards before midfield and then 5 yards before the end zone. If a player steps out of bounds, they cannot be the first person to touch the ball. So please keep that in mind. Flag guarding. So this changed, I believe it was last year. People can spin. Your players can spin while running the ball, but they cannot actually have contact with their arm going down to the side to block anyone from pulling their flags. They cannot jump or anything like that to avoid having their flag pulled. And it's good practice to try and keep your athletes running with their arms up at their chest, not down by their sides. That way there's no confusion there. Nobody can get called for flag guarding when it was an accident or things like that. So it's good practice if you can to have your athletes run with their hands up at their chest. There's no limit on the number of steps for a blocker. The blocker must beat the defender to the spot. I think that might be a little backwards, but they just have to beat the person to the spot, kind of like a basketball screen. All right, interceptions. Very, very fun rule. I think you all have enjoyed this. The defender that intercepts a pass can now return the ball. It is a live ball. That means that all players on the field at any time must be wearing flags. So please keep this in mind. All of your defensemen must be wearing flags. Also, new rule for the hands and the ball for touching the ground and using for balance. So the ball is now considered an extension of the hand. So the ball carrier may use their hand and or the ball for balance as long as they do not lose control of the ball while they are doing that. So if somebody's running, they get a little tripped up, as long as there's nothing else that makes it considered down. If they're just using the ball for balance, they are allowed to do that. The ball is allowed to touch the ground in that sense. Defensive rusher. So, as you know, 7 yards they have to be from the line of scrimmage. This new rule basically says if they have started back at that 7 yard line and before the ball is snapped, they accidentally cross that 7 yard line, they are allowed to go back and reset and still rush the quarterback.
Yeah, and I just really want to hammer in this rule because I know at the last qualifier, we saw a little bit of rushing, and I think there was some confusion amongst teams, amongst officials. So just remember to keep this rule in mind.
All right,
Yeah.
equipment.
Do you want
We're
to take
using,
this one? I can take it if you.
if it's all yours, you can have it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alec, for going over all the rule reminders. I'm going to start by talking about equipment for this section. So, as you guys know, you all have to have intermediate or youth size footballs. They're going to be used for every single game. You guys should have been practicing with them. We've used them at all the qualifiers, so it's very familiar to you guys. A protective mouthpiece must be worn at all times when the player is playing. So, they can't have it hanging out of their mouth in between plays. They can't have it hanging out on their ear. If there's something happening on the field and they're just kind of chilling out, it must be in and worn properly at all times. We've had injuries in the past, and that's why we're very strict on this rule. We just want to protect all the players and make sure nothing happens. And then onto the three flag belts. So the flags they wear must be a one-piece belt. So when you pull on one flag, the entire belt comes off. It's a lot easier for the athletes to see and kind of people to, see the flags drop amongst the shuffle. So that's why we have a one piece instead of the individual flags. And like Alec touched upon, well, that now that the teams could do a pick six, if given the opportunity, we want them to wear the flag belts even if they're on defense in case the play gets switched up. So everyone on the field must have flag belts at the same at all times.
And one thing I just wanted, or sorry, were you done, Jordan, for this slide?
Yeah, I'm done. You're good.
One thing I just wanted to add on this, please make sure that all of your players that are wearing the flag belts actually have the flags in the right position, right? So there should be one flag on each hip and one flag in the back. I know stuff happens, especially while they're running around, things can get twisted and whatnot. So please, if you could just keep an eye on that, we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll have the refs keep an eye on that, but just keep the game fair for everybody. If you could please make sure that the flags are in the correct positions, just give a check every once in a while for your players that are on the field. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alec. Okay, yeah. And then uniforms. So at the last qualifier, there was way too many uniform infractions. We had people wearing jewelry, we had people wearing wristbands, we had uniforms that weren't tucked in, we had shirts underneath that didn't match the uniforms or the rest of the team. And worst thing, we had so many pockets in shorts. So we really need you guys to check your athletes before they go into games. When you're lining them up to stretch, just kind of do a once over of everyone just to make sure they are abiding by all the guidelines before they play. In between your games, we understand if it's going to be cold, rainy, they're going to put on jackets, they're going to put on pants. They might even put their jewelry back on just to keep it safe. Make sure before they play again, you do another one of those initial checks. Um, and yeah, so just all the anything that you wear under the uniforms has to be consistent with the rest of the team. So if one person wears a red shirt under the uniform, the entire team must do that if they choose to wear something underneath. Make sure that all the shirt, shorts, and pants are matching. And then also, like I said, tucking it in. We just don't want the jerseys to interfere with any potential flag pulling that can happen. We don't want, an athlete to go for a flag and pull the jersey and pull the player down. Injuries happen that way, and that's no good for anybody. So again, no jewelry may be worn. I want to point out that this does include wristbands of any kind, so any silicone wristbands, hair ties, things like that won't be allowed. Let's see. John, you do have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
Last weekend, there were a couple of players that were wearing brimmed hats, like a baseball cap. I went over to talk to the coach, and they had him take them off. But it might be a good reminder that they shouldn't be wearing those. Might want to just, if I'm correct on that assumption.
Yes, I can definitely that should have been in here. I'll add it before I send these slides to you guys just so you have that. But yes, no hard brim hats allowed. They can wear like beanies and things like that if the weather's cold and it's windy to kind of protect their ears and keep their heads warm. But no hard brims. You're right with that, John. Yes, and also with layers, the uniform must always be on the outside. I feel like that makes sense. But some players might forget to take a hoodie off, things like that. So just make sure their uniform's always on the outside so you can see the front and back because the numbers will be on the front and back of their jerseys. And then for footwear, make sure they have a rubber cleated or flat soled athletic shoes. So no cleats with spikes or metal are allowed. No hiking boots, no slip-ons of any kind. It's just dangerous for everyone and for the athletes. So make sure they wear the proper footwear before the game starts.
Yeah, one thing I'll add there, as I think John was the one that asked the question about what to do when you have downtime. If you do decide to go into the knot arena, and if somebody is wearing the rubber cleated shoes, please have them bring an extra pair of shoes. We don't want the cleats of any type going into the knot arena on the floors or anything like that. It could provide slippage. It could damage some of the flooring, that kind of stuff. So just a reminder there as far as the footwear. If you decide to go in the knot arena for whatever reason, just make sure that you check the footwear before they enter that building. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks,
And
Steve.
just one extra thing, Jordan mentioned this, no earrings. Specifically, I wanted to emphasize there's also no stud earrings. Um, the reason for that is they still have the pointy part in the back. And if somebody were to get, hit in the head on accident or fall or the ball hits them in the head, it could stab them in the neck. And we don't want that. So absolutely no jewelry. The exception obviously is the medical alert devices. But otherwise, no jewelry.
Yes, and that also includes any sort of like facial piercing, so nose rings, eyebrow rings. You can't just use tape to cover them up. They have to come out. They do make, I don't know if you guys know this, but if anyone has a fresh piercing and obviously they don't want to remove their earrings and the hole close up, they do make rubber stoppers that you can put in your ears. I use them all the time when I played soccer when I was younger. So definitely encourage them to buy those if they're nervous to take their earrings out because they're pliable, they're really soft, they're not pointy at all, and you can't even tell that they're in your ears. So, and they make them specifically for athletes and competition. And yeah, one thing I do want to mention before I go to the next slide, if you are nervous about, athletes showing up in like not the proper uniform, not the proper, shorts, I recommend just, maybe purchasing a few shorts that kind of comply with the rules and match the rest of your team just to have them as spares in case. And maybe do the same for any t-shirts or long sleeves that you think people might want to wear underneath, just in case all their colors don't match. It's up to you guys to really prepare your athletes. I know you have so much on your plate and you guys are doing this in a volunteer capacity, which is absolutely amazing. But we rely on you guys to make sure your athletes are ready so their competition isn't interrupted and they have the best experience at states. So we really appreciate your help in advance with this. And looking forward to not having any uniform infractions and not having to tell anyone anything. Right, guys? That'd be great. Okay. And then individual skills. So Caprice West, who most of you who are doing skills should be familiar with, she will be our skills competition director. Again, the Mount softball girls will be helping assist her at the stations. There's going to be 5 skill stations, as you guys know. There's a pass for distance, target pass, flag pulling, the 40-yard dash, and then catching, which was new in 2023 and then it was revamped last year. So I just want to run through that real quick with you guys. But athletes will go through 2 rounds of skills. After the first round, they're going to be redivisioned. We don't have many skills athletes this year, so we'll see how divisioning goes. And then awards for that will be presented after the scores are calculated for the final round. And like mentioned before, those awards will happen prior to the team play awards. And then catching, this is just a quick reminder for the skills coaches that are on, but we have 3 routes for catching. All of this can be found on the coaches resources page along with the diagrams to kind of show you what the setup is going to be. So after each pass, the player will return to the start line for the next position and then go run the next route. And they will get 2 attempts and their best score will be recorded for this and count towards their final score. And then this is just a little bit over the point. So they get 1 point for the good first catch at the nearest spot, 2 points for a catch at the further spot, and then 3 points for the catch at the furthest route. And then we're going to be 1 bonus point is going to be awarded for every correct route that they run. And then some just general rules for you guys to remember. Special Olympics flag football is non-contact, as Alec mentioned before. Just make sure your team remembers to, keep their arms down when they're, maybe inclined to tackle someone or strong arm someone to kind of keep them away from them. It could be reaction, but just make sure you hammer it into them to keep down. If they are running full force, at a player to get their flags, just make sure you keep an eye on it. We had some people pummel one another at the last qualifier, and where it was a total accident, of course, other athletes were upset about it. So just make sure you keep an eye on that. And for points of emphasis, so no team can repeatedly commit penalties or fouls which have the distance to the goal line. Neither team can commit any act which, in the opinion of the referee, and yes, this will be up to the official, that tend to make a travesty of the game. So you guys you can't use penalties and fouls to your advantage. That's just not fair. That's not how we play the game. And it's unfair to the athletes most of all. And the officials are there to officiate the games. They make the final call. There will be no arguing and yelling at the officials. If you have a question, you're more than welcome to ask. But if anything's made or missed as their officials, it is their final call. We're working with the Mount to recruit student officials from them. So these officials will be trained in flag football. They know what they're doing. But like I said, if there's any questions or any, issues that you have, you can address it with them, but please do so in a calm manner that does not interrupt the game.
One other thing, if I can add, Jordan,
Yeah.
with the officials, some of them may be new, they may not be quite as familiar with Special Olympic rules. If there is something that is a direct rule violation or in contradiction to our rules, please, you can let the referee know nicely. You can let us know, and we can address the referees. That is
Yeah.
something that myself or Jordan can address and will address with the referees, but we will not go against them on a judgment call. If it is something that is directly against the rules, we will address it. If it is their judgment call, we are not going to change it. So please keep that in mind.
Thank you, Alec. And unsportsmanlike conduct. So, sportsmanship and roughing. So, officials will disqualify any player or coach who participates in rough or unsportsmanlike play. So, pushing, shoving, screaming, shouting, waving your arms around frantically. Um, in an aggressive manner. Of course, we can wave our arms when we get excited. That happens to everyone. But yeah, so the officials will disqualify you, and that means you're disqualified for the rest of the competition. So you can't just be disqualified for one game and then come back after that call is made. You will be asked to leave the competition. During player possession, it is illegal for a defensive player to strip or pull the ball from the ball carrier at any time. And then with these calls that the official is making, he doesn't have to give you, or he or she does not have to give you a warning. You guys know the rules. You know it's not allowed. They can pull you out of the game immediately if they do, if they wish, and if it is that bad. And for ball carriers, they must make an effort to avoid defenders with an established position. Alec kind of covered this in earlier slides. The ball carrier may jump to avoid dangerous contact. If someone trips and falls, and they have to jump to avoid them, that's totally okay, but they may not jump to avoid flag pulling. They can spin, they can dodge, but they cannot jump. And defenders are not allowed to run through the ball carrier when pulling flags. So they can pull their flag, and what I really would like to see, and I know athletes get really excited and like their adrenaline's going, their heart's pumping, but when they pull the flags off of another player, I would like them either to drop it right where they pulled them from, or, in the best case scenario, hand it back to the player they took them from. That's just great sportsmanship. It creates, a great relationship amongst the athletes, and I think it adds to a healthy game of play. I don't want to see people pulling flags and throwing them, or, celebrating them and waving them around. That's just not sportsmanlike. It's not what we want to see, and we want to keep a clean competition for states.
One other thing,
Yes.
defenders cannot dive to pull flags. Keep that in mind. That's all. Thank you.
Yes. Very good. And then just a little bit of continued conversation about the unsportsmanlike conduct, but no profanity is allowed on the fields or the sidelines. It can't be from any players, any coaches. Like I said, I know athletes get excited and players get excited. You guys as coaches get excited. It's really easy to just kind of slip those out like you're, watching Sunday Night Football on your couch at home. But make sure that you keep that profanity under wraps. We don't want to hear it at all. And then make sure you also hammer this into your players as well. We don't want any inappropriate trash talk amongst athletes. No aggressive language or taunting is allowed. Of course, if they're friends with like the opposing team, like some friendly competition banter, totally understandable. But anything that is aggressive or, deemed inappropriate or that makes another player uncomfortable will not be tolerated. Um, and then, like I mentioned on the last slide, but just make sure you let your players know when pulling flags, we don't want them to slam or throw them really far from where they pulled them from, so the other athlete has to walk to get them. Preferably hand them back to the athlete or drop them right where they pulled them from. And then, so that kind of concludes the end of our webinar this evening. Like Steve mentioned, we have recorded this. All the slides are going to be sent to you guys in an email tomorrow. And then I'm also going to be putting the slides and uploading the recording to the Coaches Resources page for you guys to view anytime you want. So if you have any sport volunteers, any parents, any of your other coaches that were unable to make it tonight, refer to them to the coaches resources page and they can get all this information there. Um, and let's see, just to remind everyone, obviously, you guys know I will be the lead for flag football, but if you have any athletes or family members competing in other sports, Monty will be in charge of powerlifting and long distance running. Julie is going to be doing cycling and bowling. Cycling will competition will happen the next day in California, Maryland, and bowling's happening a few weeks from now. And then Jake is going to be doing tennis at the Mount, and then he is also responsible for the soccer state championship, which will be happening, I think it's the 25th and 26th of October. So yeah, that's just a breakdown of our team and who's in charge of what. So in case you guys have any other questions about any other sports, now you know who to go to.
And John, I do see your hand raised if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Sure. One more quick question. Volunteers, I know you mentioned that you're getting officials from the school, but do you need any other event general volunteers?
At this point, I would say we're looking pretty good. Sam Boyd, our director of volunteers, as well as Nell Maricourt, who's supporting Sam Boyd in those efforts, been working with the Mount and other community contacts, if you will, in that area. We feel pretty good about it. Appreciate the question. If you do have individuals who may be interested in helping out, whether for whatever reason, we know volunteerism is a challenge at times. And if we have a shortage and no shows, we may ask if family members may be able to help at a score table or help present awards for the teams or something of that nature. So yeah, John, if you have anybody, and if we do raise that to the coaches, just be on standby and have your people ready, have them ahead of time. If a situation arises, is anybody here willing to volunteer? But I appreciate the question. Thanks, man. Yeah, I think with that, I want to thank Jordan and Alec for tonight and the preparations for this evening and throughout the season. I also want to, on behalf of Jim Schmutz, our president and CEO at Special Olympics Maryland, thank you as coaches. Without your dedication, your volunteerism, your leadership, working with the athletes and unified teammates throughout the season. And I know many of you are involved in other sports or other capacities of supporting Special Olympics. So we thank you. Without you, there is no competition. There is no Special Olympics. There is no sports, sports competitions and things of that nature. So we truly do appreciate all of your efforts. Collectively, it's our job to provide the best experience possible. Not just the volunteers, not just the staff at the state office, not just the area county leadership, not just you coaches. Collectively, it's all of our jobs to work together to provide a great experience with sportsmanship, respect for all, and just have a great competition. Sports is supposed to be fun. We know it can get heated. It is competition, but we rely on each other to make this the best experience. So thank you for all of your efforts. We will be in touch with you regarding the weather this weekend. We hope it provides us an opportunity to get back on the field, but we'll do our best as we always do. But we truly do appreciate your time this evening, everything you've done throughout the season, and what you will do between now and the state championships.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, very much. I really appreciated meeting all of you. Really excited for states, and just really happy to see the finale of the flag football season.
I think we can stop the recording and be
Thank
good.
you.